You have to love to see it, don't you? Tape on a computer monitor, and all I thought to myself when I saw this was, it's happening. The rest of the world can say whatever it wants, but when I see this, I say, and they can say whatever they want about us, but when I see this, I say, it's happening. People are doing things. Artist Journal, November 11th, 2022, Berlin. My name is Adrian Pocobelli, and I welcome you back. So Bite by Bit does not disappoint, even showing his process. I love it. I love it. I love it. 1988, Fantavision has no ruler. These are sort of things that happen with old software. I made it with tape pasted on the monitor screen, Ilay, and shout out to Ilay, who has bought a few of my works recently, as if you watched yesterday's episode. And again, it's sort of like Enjoy the Bear, guys. You got to love how small this is. I mean, you got to love it. So anyways, tape on a computer monitor. Interestingly, Bite by Bit also shared these other kind of screenshots from Fantavision, from that Fantavision software. Yeah, so, and there's sounds. So the sounds, now let's actually quickly get to the work. I brought it up, and let me see if everything's working here. Sometimes it's tricky. Oh, there we go. Hug. So I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it. Okay. So animation made by 1988 Fantavision, sound on and sold to Ilay. So awesome, awesome. The fun continues over here, and more fun. Thank you, Rada. Big shout out for putting an offer in on Security of Europe, a concept piece from the secret history of World War III. Traveling through the mediums here. How I would start these very quickly is I would put a bunch of paint on a palette, and then I'd photograph that, and then I would then I'd send that image to my phone of the paintbrush strokes you see here, and then I start playing with the color, because that was actually a brown, so I switched the color, and then began my piece, and that kind of became the foundation of that piece. So traveling through the mediums. So shout out to Rada. Thanks for that, and thanks for the comment. Rada's a quite prominent artist in the space, as most of us know. Delightful stream. Thanks for sharing. My pleasure. So great to have you watching, Rada. That's super cool. We love Rada and his awesome, awesome pixel art. Very interesting comment here from a couple of artist journals ago. I wish I could pronounce your name because this looks like Ukrainian or Russian. Hello, Adrian. It seems to me that your journal is worthy of thousands of views. Thank you. Great stuff. Perhaps if you add keywords to the name, for example, NFT or Tezos, then the algorithms will bring new viewers. Good luck. Thank you. So I've done that on a couple of videos. Actually, like the first, it was like update, collecting art on Tezos update, or collecting NFTs on Tezos. But it's kind of fun actually having this anti-SEO. I don't want to call it a strategy because it's not, like, maybe on a certain level it's a strategy, but it's very fun to build something out purely on product and not worry about any of that SEO stuff, not worry. It's growing on its own. You know, we have very nice growth, percentage-wise. It's still a tiny channel, and I'm kind of really enjoying growing at this kind of rate. Like, it's like, and I think it served this show well, because look, it's mostly, as I always say, it's the people who are in this show that are mostly the people who watch this show. And so, I mean, just to have that many artists that are kind of watching and participating by, putting out comments, retweeting, etc. I'm cool with very slow growth. Again, everybody, it's counterintuitive, right? Because everybody's like, gotta grow as fast as possible, and everybody wants, fame tomorrow. First of all, fame's probably very overrated. And second of all, again, it's like, enjoy the bear, enjoy being small. So I appreciate it, though, because it's true. Like, if we wanted to really turbocharge this, you could SEO all 80 of these videos, right? And you could probably get like way more viewers. People have mentioned YouTube Shorts, which I may do. Maybe you just cut out an edit of me talking about one piece where it's like you don't even need to make new things. And apparently those get a ton of views for those of people that are on YouTube. Someone described it as TikTok. It's like early TikTok if you do YouTube Shorts. So a little heads up if you guys are on YouTube. So maybe that's a way where you're not like, I like these titles that we're doing. I think it's fun. It's a real artist journal. It's not just like, let's see how many viewers we can get overnight. I think this is more sustainable in a weird sort of way. And it's funner for me, right? Because if everything just becomes kind of a selling and you know what I'm saying? So I appreciate the comment because it's like very nice. He's saying basically we need to bring you to a bigger audience. So I appreciate it. But yeah, it's been purposefully anti-SEO, and it's for the most part. I mean, there is the odd video that, where Tezos and NFT are going to be in it. But generally speaking, look, and then love the title of your video from Lewis. So that was from last episode, I think, comments. There are some new ones, and this is something I want to talk a little bit about today, which is Runetoon had an interesting comment. We often talk about retro software tools, right? But he talks about retro hardware. And this is a whole other kind of province that we haven't described. Again, I think on this show, I love to be kind of multimedia. We are not just in this NFT pigeonhole. That is the foundation. And, you could, just like we're multi-chain, and you could argue, though, the foundation is Tezos kind of art scene, for lack of a better term. But we go from there, and just like we're kind of, foundation is digital, but then we expand from there into physical and bring everything is on the table. That's the beauty of a daily artist journal. We can go wherever we want here, So let's just look at Runetoon's comment. So enjoyed the talk on bugs being features and vice versa. It's clear that we appreciate old technology and retro everything. It speaks to our affinity for nostalgia. I have tried to figure out a way to get an old version of iPhoto, the one from 2008, so that I can use its primitive photo editing features to edit my recent work. Very interesting, right? I mean, that just like we have Bit by Bit and everybody, Rat Cloak using Microsoft Paint, right? So it's all over the space and to great effect. The old iPhoto from 2008 had a way of editing photos that would affect the magenta green spectrum and totally warp the color and feel of an image. It did it in a way that I can replicate organically using something like Photoshop that I can't replicate organically using something like Photoshop or the new iPhoto. So very fascinating. I actually thought he mentioned the iPhone when I first looked at this. That's why I brought up hardware here. But it is all the old iPhoto. I mean, that is a whole other thing, though. I mean, using retro hardware, like old iPhones, for example, to take pictures or to get certain effects. That's a whole other kind of, thing. I mean, imagine you're using your Nokia phone as a camera, right? I have a friend who's a photographer, and she would work with old cameras, and she was just all analog and everything. And what I was saying is, if you want to get into the NFT space, to keep consistent with your work, but to have kind of purely digital work, natively digital work, I was suggesting to her, hey, why don't you use old digital cameras like you'd find in a Nokia or an old iPhone to take pictures with, and that kind of keeps with your kind of using retro cameras. But for those, you can turn into NFTs and they'll be natively digital. You just have a JPEG, right? So very fun, right? Our very kind of interesting discussion we're having here about different mediums and tools. A rich subject. And just a quick shout out to Lucas Band. Luis Lantigua really loves that AI Dreams of an Artist journal. Super interesting. I kept pausing and finding all these shapes. Super interesting. Take on your show. Interesting. Okay, so very cool. And shout out to Vito and Green Cross, just discovered the stream for the first time and already hooked. So shout out, Green Cross, welcome aboard. And Bazaya had a good comment here. Remember, and I think I have it here. Remember this work here? I was looking at, I didn't know who the last person was. I actually thought it said LSD here, but it says ISO. And that is, as Bazaya puts it, the great isolationist, aka ISO, a great artist. Another great video. Congrats. Thank you. Thanks for pointing that out. And, I'm not sure if we've ever had Isolationist on this program. I feel like we have, but anyways, thanks for highlighting that. And I'm going to make sure we have Isolationist, who seems to be a veteran of the Tezos scene. Again, like I don't have a comprehensive view on all the artists or anything. So if I miss something, thanks for bringing that to my attention. So here, I posted this yesterday just as part of our traveling through the mediums. I never post my work, so I'm trying to actually break that psychological barrier in my head as well. I did it a couple of weeks ago. So anyways, here's just some... so let me just show you quickly. So this was what you just saw there was an inkjet print, but this is a natively digital work. This was composed on a phone, and then I'll actually show you here. This was 100% on an iPhone, this work. This is where it started. And then this is basically where the digital work ended. I need to lower that list price probably a little bit. This is a crop of course, Titian work, Bacchus and Ariadne, which is much larger. And I just kind of cropped the most kind of awkward. I'm sure a lot of you guys recognize this. So this is the digital work, which is kind of finished off in a Mac. So I ended up doing a whole other kind of process that was added on the Mac, which gives you all the weird dots and kind of weird fills. And so that was a digital work. This is my point here. And before crypto, I was always thinking to myself, how do I make this physical so that I can actually make a business out of this and survive off my art? How do you make it physical? So this was my solution. You take that underneath layer, because we're working in layers digitally, right? So I took the underneath layer, I printed it out on inkjet, and then this is A0, so it's actually a very large screen print screen here. This is at Bethanian. If you're ever in Berlin, maybe some of you have been to Berlin, I'm sure. BBK Bethanian in Kreuzberg has an excellent studio. Sign up for that, and it's totally worth it. So there's the print, the stencil, and then you see the paint goes over top. The acrylic, you can have, there's different, I think there's gouache and there's acrylic for screen prints. And the acrylic with the extra opaque white that you can buy, that ends up covering everything and making it all opaque. So that's part of the process behind how I get to this point. You don't see all the failures along the way, right? And finally, so that's basically it. So it's about 1.10 m by 1.30 m. So it's not small. And you see, maybe you can't see, but it's not like a perfect alignment or anything. And this is why I consider this like a different artwork, a different iteration of that concept that we saw of this piece. Like, I sell these separately. It's not like I say, oh, if you buy this, then you're going to get this or anything. Like, to me, they're just completely different artworks. If you feel that's, if you disagree, feel free to leave a comment on that, because I feel pretty strongly about that, but I'm open to any ideas, and I'll do different colors and remixes of these. So to me, these are all different artworks. So anyways, let me know what you think. I thought that was just kind of interesting and fun. And me breaking through some psychological barriers there. I'm going to try and post more of my work just because that's good, because I should be doing that. So anyways, continuing on, Popple. Look at this. So I criticize TV sometimes, but this is awesome, right? I'm talking about these 16:9 things, not these retro TVs. This is like very thoughtful and purposeful. So if you happen to be near Gallery Feles Omo Tesando in Tokyo, and there's the address, you can see my work, The Brooder, on display among brilliant works from other artists, thanks to Plugman NFT for organizing and putting up the show. So very, very interesting and cool. I think this is an awesome display of an NFT. And look at how global we are. And it's kind of like, we all know this, but it's kind of easy to forget. It's so close to us. It's so obvious that sometimes it's easy to forget. Like, we saw a Kurt Hustle collective in Prague. We saw him on the Manhattan Bridge, along with Haiti and Spogels Maskinen. Yeah, like that's it. And this is the beautiful thing about digital. Again, it's not like anything has to ship, right? It's like, oh, you want to use my work in, Australia? Sure. You could put it up today, You want that work that was just showing on Super Rare to be in your display? Sure. It's, I'll send it to you now. And, or you can just like, do whatever you need to do, and it's on display in an hour in Australia. That's not how the physical art world works, of course. While we're on the subject of displays, one of the great topics that we cover here, Ed Marola has put out a poll. Digital art should be displayed on cell phones, TV, huge LED screens. I assume this is projector style, right? Or virtual worlds. And you see huge LED screens won by a landslide. Speaking of elections, cell phones, 13%. Look at TV, which is the most commonly way of doing it. And by TV, we're thinking, at least I'm thinking of these 16:9 things, not what we just saw, which was super cool of Popples, but we're thinking, what we typically see at an NFT art show, which is 16:9, and then you're forced to crop, or all that awkwardness that comes with that size. This is the solution. Because you know why? On TVs, let's say you want to show the whole work, so you're going to have black, let's say on the bottom or the top or on both sides. With a projector, that black just is nothing. It disappears. It's basically an absence of light. And that's why I think that's one of the main reasons that projectors are better than TVs, generally speaking. And you also get the massive scale, right? And digital art looks awesome. A lot of things look awesome when you blow it up. Right? So just very interesting. Look at this beautiful work by Bazaya that he's putting out for the first day for minting on Art to Act Official. So we mentioned this event was happening. The Art to Act Official Genesis, already one piece from my collection, has been minted de profesión artista Turo. Okay, so I don't speak Spanish. Turo por deporte. These are 3 of the 4 works presented for my collection. Pink Beats. Yeah, like this is really like this is a pretty hip image, if you ask me. Great portrait, and some really, these look like cherry blossoms. I think of Dan Control with the cherry blossoms from yesterday, right? So anyways, just a really cool work. I think we have some others here. So yeah, a couple of other portraits. That one's edgier for sure. And Turaka. So anyways, just Gucci band. Yeah, so anyway, a very nice work from Bazaya. Congrats on the sale. Robnus had just an interesting comment that I think is worth us pondering. Crypto artists will have fans, millions of them. My ultimate prediction is that there will be tons of well-known crypto artists, and collectors will be a very small portion, usually doing the big buys, whereas the rest of the world will just buy the art for pure enjoyment. Yeah, interesting. It's very tempting. Like I was thinking to myself, it's almost like this is like the new rock and roll to a certain degree, and we're in 1961, where maybe the first wave has happened, Bob Dylan has happened, or is happening, and there was the first wave, but you almost get the sense when 1963 happens, it's just going to be gangbusters, so just something to think about. If you ever get down on what you're doing, just think maybe we're in 1962, okay? And everything. So who knows? Do it for the art, but I just think this prediction kind of rings true a little bit. We've looked at this work before by Tokyo Love, but I don't think we saw the finished version. So it's now available. You can get it for 0.1. It's an edition of 100, and it's quite a beautiful work, the finished version. Let's see if it works here. So there is no volume, but just a really beautiful, again, that vaporwave color, Tokyo scene. It looks like it's a subway, Asakusa station, so I assume that's in Tokyo. So another reference to Tokyo here on our international program. I think this is the last piece, I'm not positive, from Daniel W.'s Weird and Terrifying. And I have to say, so it's just an owl, a barn owl, and it's probably from some kind of myth from Brazil, but I just love the simplicity of the ending here, if it is in fact the ending. I thought it was a brilliant ending, if it is. So simple, just a barnyard owl. And there's probably some story, but I think a very, again, I'm tempted, just like we were talking about Haiti ending his series on a poetic note, This would be a very poetic ending if it is in fact the ending. So just an update on Louis Osborne's auction here. So he has a new one out, and it's at 240 Tezos with 5 hours to go. I imagine that'll probably double, but I don't know. Not advice of any kind, but I imagine by the time this is done, you'll probably get some late bidders coming in there. Because Louis Osborne has been making waves. Paper Crane, who sometimes collaborates with Louis Osborne, is doing very well. A new work on this kind of illustrative style. You gotta love the colors here. It's kind of easy to forget, but that kind of light orange with that, almost gray blue, very nice contrast. Of course, blue and orange are opposites on the color wheel, so a natural contrast. And what do we have here? Let's just look. I think I had that open. Yeah, like taking offers from 20 to 42 Tezos. So that's a nice business, right? Where you don't even need to put it on the market, and you're getting minimum 20 on an edition of 15. It's 300 Tezos at 20. So he probably made like 400, somewhere around there. Mental Block 05. So nice work, Paper Crane. This seemed to be kind of in the same spirit, and I found this on Stolka's feed. And I do recommend, we're going to have her feed up here a little later, but I do recommend her as a follow. She's got excellent, I found a few works here that we're going to look at from her feed. And so anyways, yeah, just a heads up there. So this is Tommy, and kind of had that same kind of architectural feeling. Illustration NFT architecture are the hashtags there. So just kind of a cool work. And also this kind of has like, I guess you'd call it Art Nouveau. There's some really nice coffee shop, like, cafe, bar sort of thing that I saw in Prague outside the theater as part of these old, beautiful 1920s theaters. And this just reminds me of that. Yeah, it's kind of, again, got that 1920s sort of feeling. Timothy Julien, available for a song, a Tezos 50, Idle Hours, poetic title. And there are 8 left. So Timothy Julien with a new one. Rustic Digital Art. So I'm enjoying a lot this exploration into digital abstraction, right? It's just very interesting. And I find it's not trying to do too much here, which I like. It's using kind of limited tools and just kind of a certain set of ideas and just like, can we make an artwork with abstraction? I think he succeeds. Just some interesting lines. I think all just very kind of intellectually provocative in a good way is how I'd describe this. Edition of 1 for 20 Tezos, so still available. An effed up world. Interesting. More of this digital abstraction. Shining voice of a silver sculpture of a floating warrior born from the ashes of an imaginary city by Santiago. So Santiago finds his way back on the program. Again, not too many colors. Like if you were ambitious about it, you could make an A0 screen print of this without too much. The hardest part for me, I'm not great at registration, which is trying to line up your layers in screen printing. But anybody that's kind of really experienced in screen printing is pretty good at registration. It's kind of essential, actually. That's why I do like 1 or 2 layers max, generally when I'm working with screen printing. But all to say, if you could screen print this, there's probably like 4 colors here. I like the cream background too, by the way. And these are squares, I believe, if you were to blow them up. I would open this image, but we're running a little late here. So I don't want to kill the mic because that will cause us problems. So here's another digital abstraction. This one uses AI, and we've been looking at, the name is Toux, and we've been looking at Toux' works the last few days here. So just another interesting experiment. This is more complex, and again, there's AI in this one. So it's just kind of fun, right, to just kind of see what's going on. And this is kind of an abstract work by Dan Control. You got an offer from Foundation. So Minta, of course, is a big screenshot artist. I've done a ton of screenshot work in the past, like we saw with that Secret History of World War III work that Rada picked up. So I'm a huge fan. I've been doing it for years, and a lot of people have. And it's great subject matter. So we have a few screenshot works here. So anyways, here's his ASCII processing of a screenshot from Foundation. You got an offer. I really like the concept of this piece. Like this is, again, the kind of work you can put up in a museum, and it's sort of like this speaks to the culture. It's got this interesting processing technique, which he continues to refine. Again, like it's kind of like a representation of the culture that we're in here. So it's just just a great, interesting piece as usual from Dan Control. Treza Rodex doing a screenshot. And what does it say here? At 14N6Co, when I become famous in this fake blockchain, then call me XD3 Sliced. So I'm not exactly sure. Homage to Vanguard fan artist. So bit of a mystery here, but pretty interesting. So mixing his digital oil painting style that he's been doing the last few days with screenshots with, it looks like a Microsoft Windows computer. And what is the Paint 3D is the software. So just kind of interesting to see a few people working with screenshots here. And even Uxine, I mean, this is non-verified, get non-verification now. So referencing Twitter and the check mark. So I mean, not exactly a screenshot, but in the province of screenshots, using the iconography of the screen, right? So cool work from Uxine, edition of 33, and some pixelation work. Another work by Sad Girl, who seems to take some anime samples, basically, and then processes them. And I just find them quite beautiful and poetic. Edition of 10, you can get it for 6 Tezos 40, and sold for $350 on primary, and has all these beautiful kind of letters there. Mince on Taya, interestingly. Another abstract work by Side Hustle. So again, this kind of pixelated abstraction from, this one's moving, right? And a kind of bigger, chunkier pixels from the Side Hustle, aka Pixel Nachos, Abstract Compositions number 7. And here's one by Byte by Bit that I thought I'd just throw in here, Scratched Pixels, number 6. So this looks also like an abstract work. So just as we kind of survey everything and see what's going on, it's interesting to just see how people are working here. Again, this is like real time. This is the last 24 hours for the most part. Look at how beautiful this is. This work by Michael Micasso, and I love almost everything. I love Michael Micasso's work, let's put it this way, but all that practice that he's doing at lunch hours, at work, and wherever else, it's going somewhere, isn't it? Because this work is kind of getting harder and harder to replicate in terms of, look at this color. And it always was, but I'm just saying, like, this color is pretty advanced. So let's just see what it says. It's done, pixel art piece inspired by Yoshida Toshi Sensei's technique, Shinhanga, trying to appropriate it with my sense of dithering and layering. So I don't know if you got the colors, but again, this like pink and the brown, the colors are stunning. And actually, it's a beautiful composition. Again, nature and pixelation just go so beautifully together. This is kind of an edgy work. I'm not sure if this came from Stulka or someone else's Twitter. Let's see if we can get it working here. Oh. Here we go. Sorry, I'll start this from the start. And you see the clouds in the background as well? And just that drone. So, just kind of an edgier work, the sort of thing that, again, you might see in a contemporary art gallery. Love that pixelated sky. What is the title? What is the artist? This is Decentral. And the name of the work is called Park Digital Collage Animation MP4 file. Interesting, right? Just kind of interesting. Continuing on, this was found from Stulka's feed. Delta Sauce. The auction has ended with Bernardo Cafe collecting both pieces. So look at this still life. Would we call this a still life? Maybe an interior. Just kind of a moody interior. I think there's another one. Right? Now, is this AI? It's tempting to think that, but I don't think it is. Is that a little TV or a microwave? Not sure what that is. So just interesting. It is reminiscent of Charles AI at a distance. So it is tempting to think maybe this is AI based, but I don't think it is. But I could be wrong about that. Anyways, beautiful work. Very beautiful, nice little details. I don't see any of the distortions that you would see in AI, which is why I left it outside of the AI section. New work by Dexter, and he continues to mint on OpenSea, which I find kind of interesting. And this is called Crew, I think 491. So kind of a slight variation, I'd say, on Dexter's style a little bit. So he's kind of playing around here. There seems to be a little bit more movement, just a little bit more. Normally, I'd say there'd only be like just the building lights or these lights, but we got just a little bit more movement here. So Crew 491 by Dexter, and you see he's minted a few things here on OpenSea. It's almost like he needs, maybe he needs a foundation invite, but maybe he's doing it on purpose. Like, so who knows? But if anybody knows Dexter, maybe forward him a foundation if he wants one. Maybe he's happy, and that's part of the concept here. Continuing on, and you don't need to pay. Like, that's the thing with OpenSea. You put it up, and then the person who buys it mints it. So it's an 1155, not an ERC. Is it 720? So generally 720s are seen as is it 721? I can't remember the exact number, but they're slightly more collectible than the 1155 generally. But if you do additions, it's an 1155 on Ethereum. So anyways, this was a super dark work by Dexter, that Blood of Despairs. So I don't know if this is a new direction, but very just kind of dark work here. So when despair and patience will face a problem, everything can happen. It can even kill someone's life as a target of anger. So yeah, considering the kind of like the chill sunsets and the car at sunsets that we were seeing, and the nice little memories of the cruise and in the sea, a little bit of a turn there from Dexter. And going with the blood also, Ezra Eslin, good morning, just brushing her teeth. I thought this was brilliant, by the way, like totally brilliant. This is a brilliant image, in my opinion. And I even like how the makeup here is, all the different colors of the makeup, and it kind of evokes the palette. Very, very, very nice work from Ezra Eslin. So here's Stulka, and you might remember Stulka from doing the bands and these punk sort of works, and she conquered her deadline. So this was also found from, the reason I bring up Stulka is because of this work here, and because of her feed. Like, go follow Stulka, because I found this from her feed. This looks like AI to me, because it's just so finely done, but I don't know. But a just kind of interesting work. It looks like it's by Moonchild. That dame we know, Sweet Dreams. I'm just guessing on that. A different but similar, like you could hang those in the same room. Layla Rouge, She'll Be Just Fine. So just kind of interesting work. I assume AI as well, but not sure on that. And another take, like we showed this yesterday, but this is from a different angle, I think. I mean, this bust, and this is otherfaces.tez. So this is just an interesting kind of discussion point here. Kintsugi is not just mentioned of repair, but also a philosophy. It's the belief that the breaks, cracks, and repairs become a valuable and esteemed part of history, that, in fact, the piece is more beautiful for having been broken. Now, we referenced the non-finito many times, and you could argue the broken work is another addition, another variation on the non-finito, the unfinished work, which again goes back to Michelangelo. Prominent Michelangelo scholars, I'll find his name, because I want to do a show on the non-finito or something at some point, argues that Michelangelo's unfinished sculptures, some of them are on purpose, according to some pretty prominent. That's where I got the term non-finito, was from watching lectures on Michelangelo. And this guy was making the case that the non-finito is a Michelangelo innovation, which is a pretty wild idea. So anyways, so this is a variation on that the broken piece, and again, like, I think this is Midjourney version 4, and we're going to look at a couple of more works. Just pretty impressive bust here. Like, I come back a second day just to let's look at that one more time from a different angle. Look at this. Midjourney V4 is truly something to behold. So, yeah, indeed. I mean, look at this. It's quite beautiful, isn't it? Like, I mean, it's just original, interesting. Like, is this raw AI? Like, I mean, it's pretty cool, all right? we're back to this pixelation, pixel art through AI, which I think is another incredibly interesting concept. I mean, where I come from, if I had produced this, then I'd probably say, okay, now I'm going to bring that into a pixel art software, probably on my iPad. I think it's called Pixalkey or something like this. Bring it in there, and then I would just kind of trace it all out, and I'd go, here's my piece. And maybe I'd animate the waterfall or something if I was like a hardcore pixel artist. So that's kind of how I see it. But nevertheless, like just like we're seeing the AI distortions get ironed out with V4, we're going to start to see, I think, quote unquote, real pixel art coming out of like V6 here, the way things are going. So pretty interesting. And not to not call this real, but you know what I'm saying? I think if we zoomed in, we wouldn't have perfect squares, right? It's like a variation on pixel art. And another work from Canik Zepta. Just another interesting kind of rainbow. This was made with DALL-E. Okay, so also AI. And you might remember this work here that I showed, which I thought was quite original and kind of like bold, right? Also created with DALL-E. And you see another. So very interesting. I mean, again, you don't really see. Have you ever seen a sun with a rainbow halo like that? It's a simple idea, but I'm not sure I've ever seen it. And that's the sort of thing that maybe AI will do. It's just going to put these simple things together that, you might not have think of otherwise. And almost done here. Javier Tomeo is starting a new series of AI. Now, we have been following Javier Tomeo quite closely because he makes these spectacular AI landscape works that look kind of like influenced by Japanese screens, right? We've seen most of these already in previous episodes. So I thought it was worth noting that the first piece of Blank Slate collection is now available on Foundation. So a new series from Javier Tomeo. So let's see where that goes because those landscapes are pretty awesome. Continuing on, another AI work, this time from Zoom, New Generation Art Studios. So I just picked one of these up. It just came out. And I love this stuff. Art studios of someone at their computer, To me, that's just so inherently modern. And you just will not have an image like that from more than 20 years ago. You know what I mean? Or maybe more than 30 years ago. This is an inherently modern image. And by the way, it's made with AI. Okay, and quite well done. This is interesting. So I've been following Delcante Draws for a while here, and in the last few days, let me just bring this up. She has posted what look like crops from a bigger work. So I didn't know what to make of that. So I think it's just another way of kind of presenting your work. I'd argue there's a slight controversial side to it because it's like, okay, but you can do it, and I've seen it. I mean, where you put like a smaller part of a work and sell that as a work. In a sense, there's no rule to say you shouldn't or can't do that, right? So it's art. We can kind of do whatever we want. But anyway, so this is the whole piece. Brilliant piece, by the way, which is why I bring it up ultimately. Church basement romances, underground fun for all. And look at this, these people doing like a kind of train and it just looks like a big party, I think, but all sorts of stuff is going on. It looks like a Bruegel, Peter Bruegel. So very, very cool. Or you could even say Hieronymus Bosch, but I'd say closer to Bruegel in spirit. So anyways, these were editions of 10. This is an edition of 3. So I just thought kind of from a sales mechanic side of view, kind of interesting as well. And that, my friends, is your show. I'm going to leave you with this beautiful Dana Ulama piece. And thank you once again for everything. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I will see you on Monday. Weekends are optional. Maybe I show up. Let's see. Thank you once again for joining me. Until next time, take care.